In the final days of Jesus' life, as narrated in the Gospel of Mark, significant events unfold that lead to his crucifixion and ultimately to the cornerstone of Christian faith, the resurrection. These events begin with the Last Supper, where Jesus shares a final meal with his disciples. In Mark 14:12-26, the scene is set during the Jewish festival of Passover. Jesus instructs his disciples to prepare the meal in a specific house, where they would find a room already furnished for the occasion. During the meal, Jesus takes bread, breaks it, and gives it to his disciples, saying, "Take it, this is my body." He then takes a cup of wine, gives thanks, and offers it to them, saying, "This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many." These words and actions establish what Christians now celebrate as the Eucharist or communion, symbolizing Jesus' impending sacrifice for humanity's sins. The Last Supper also includes Jesus' prediction of his betrayal by one of his own disciples, setting the stage for the events that follow. After the meal, Jesus and his disciples go to the Garden of Gethsemane to pray. In Mark 14:32-52, the atmosphere is heavy with tension and sorrow. Jesus, knowing what is about to happen, takes Peter, James, and John with him and expresses his deep anguish, asking them to keep watch while he prays. He prays to God, asking if it is possible to avoid the suffering that is to come, but ultimately submits to God's will, saying, "Yet not what I will, but what you will." The disciples, however, fall asleep repeatedly, unable to stay awake. Soon Judas arrives with a crowd armed with swords and clubs, sent by the chief priests and elders. Judas betrays Jesus with a kiss, the prearranged signal, and Jesus is arrested. In the chaos, one of the bystanders cuts off the ear of the high priest's servant, but Jesus rebukes any violence. The disciples, overwhelmed with fear, flee, leaving Jesus to face his fate alone. Jesus is then brought before the Jewish authorities, as recorded in Mark 14:53-57-65. He is taken to the high priest's house, where the chief priests, elders, and teachers of the law have gathered. The trial is marked by false testimonies and accusations, but none of them hold up. Finally, the high priest directly asks Jesus if he is the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One. Jesus responds, "I am, and you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven." This declaration is considered blasphemy by the Jewish authorities, who then condemn Jesus to death. They begin to mock him, spit on him, and strike him, showing their disdain and rejection of his claim. The next morning, as detailed in Mark 15:1-15, Jesus is handed over to the Roman governor Pontius Pilate for sentencing. The chief priests accuse Jesus of claiming to be the King of the Jews, a title that threatens Roman authority. Pilate, recognizing the political implications, questions Jesus but is puzzled by his calm demeanor and silence in the face of the accusations. Pilate offers to release a prisoner to the crowd, a customary gesture during Passover, and asks if they would like Jesus released. However, the crowd, stirred up by the chief priests, demands the release of Barabbas, a known rebel, and calls for Jesus to be crucified. Pilate, unwilling to oppose the crowd, orders Jesus to be flogged and sentenced to crucifixion. Jesus' crucifixion is recounted in Mark 15:21-47. He is led out to Golgotha, the place of the skull, where he is nailed to the cross. Simon of Cyrene is compelled to carry the cross for Jesus, who is weakened by the flogging. The soldiers cast lots for his garments, and above his head they place a sign reading, "The King of the Jews," mocking his claim. Jesus is crucified between two criminals, and as he hangs on the cross, he endures taunts and ridicule from the bystanders and religious leaders. At noon, darkness falls over the land, and at 3 PM Jesus cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" With a loud cry, he breathes his last, and the curtain of the temple is torn in two, symbolizing the breaking of the barrier between God and humanity. A Roman centurion, witnessing Jesus' death, declares, "Surely this man was the Son of God." Jesus' body is taken down from the cross by Joseph of Arimathea, a respected member of the council, who lays it in a tomb carved out of rock. A stone is rolled against the entrance, sealing the tomb. On the first day of the week, 3 days after Jesus' death, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome go to the tomb to anoint Jesus' body, as recorded in Mark 16:28. They worry about how they will move the heavy stone, but when they arrive, they find it already rolled away. Inside the tomb, they see a young man dressed in a white robe, who tells them that Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified, has risen. He instructs them to tell the disciples that Jesus is going ahead of them to Galilee. The women, trembling and bewildered, flee from the tomb, too afraid to speak. Christians believe that Jesus' resurrection is the foundational event of their faith. It is the ultimate proof of his divinity and the fulfillment of his promises. The resurrection signifies victory over sin and death, offering the hope of eternal life to all who believe. It transforms the sorrow of the crucifixion into a message of hope and redemption, showing that Jesus' death was not the end, but the beginning of a new covenant between God and humanity. The empty tomb is a powerful symbol of this new life, and the resurrection is celebrated by Christians around the world as the cornerstone of their faith, commemorated each year on Easter Sunday.